Forget everything you think you know about the night. Forget the simple rotation of the earth, the predictable arc of the moon. What if I told you that in the deep, velvet hush between the last conscious thought and the first spark of dawn, time doesn't simply pass? What if it is controlled, guarded, manipulated, and held captive by a single solitary goddess whose name is never spoken in the light, whose influence is absolute only when the mortal world is utterly, blissfully, and dangerously asleep? Her name is Aeterna. She is the keeper of the Chrono-Loom, the cosmic device that weaves the very fabric of time for all those who slumber. Now close your eyes, relax your body, but open your mind, because what you are about to hear is the secret history of the universe's most precious and most vulnerable hours. Every mortal believes their day is fixed, an unyielding measure. They are wrong. When sleep claims you, that sweet, inescapable surrender, you enter her domain. Aeterna does not simply slow down time. She expands it, contracts it, loops it, and polishes it. The moment you drift off, she plucks your consciousness from the linear river and holds it in her hand. Her realm is a boundless, silent ocean, lit only by the faint, shimmering threads of the Chrono-Loom. These threads are the accumulated, latent hours of every sleeping being, a vast, volatile energy source. The mortals call this rest, but Aeterna calls it the stolen moment. Every tick of the clock she holds is an hour the waking gods cannot touch, an hour that can be redistributed, repurposed, or perhaps, most controversially, kept. Imagine the city, silent beneath the moon, millions of hearts beating in perfect, slow rhythm. To Aeterna, this silence is power. Her chamber, deep beneath the world, where chaos begins, is a symphony of silent motion. Her only companions are the Silenti, creatures born from the deepest stillness, whose task is to gather the latent hours. They move through the dreamscapes like smoke, not to influence the dreams themselves, but to skim the pure time energy from the dreaming mind. It is a necessary harvesting, Aeterna assures herself. Without her intervention, without the carefully engineered pause she enforces, the waking gods, the sun, the sky, the war, would drain the mortal timeline dry, speeding up life until it was nothing but a frantic flicker. She is the essential break, the indispensable pause button on the universe. But Aeterna's role is far more complex and far more dangerous than simple preservation. She uses the stolen moment. She takes the collected, inert hours of a billion sleepers and infuses them back into the waking world in strategic, unseen bursts. When a mortal experiences a moment of profound, timeless beauty, a newborn smile, the perfect sunset that seems to last forever, that is Aeterna at work. She has taken a handful of stolen hours and condensed them into an eternal second. When a mortal is running late, desperately trying to catch a flight, and the train arrives just on time, that too is Aeterna, weaving time to ensure the cosmic narrative stays on track. She is the hidden hand of fate, adjusting the speed of existence for every individual, every day. It's a thankless, invisible job, and it's why she is never seen by the other deities, for she has developed a deep, justifiable paranoia about their potential interference. The Olympian and Asgardian pantheons, and all the countless others, do not fully grasp Aeterna's true function. They know of night, they know of sleep, but they attribute the flow of time to their own suns, moons, and cosmic gears. They are proud, oblivious, and dangerously complacent. Aeterna, in her isolation, has grown weary of their arrogance. This weariness has festered, turning into a silent, potent resentment. She has started to ask herself a dangerous question. If I control the time of the sleeping, and all the powerful are eventually forced to sleep, what truly limits my authority? What if the stolen moment could be used not just to preserve the status quo, but to change it? What if she could rewrite the fundamental timeline of the cosmos? The tension in her chamber is palpable. The Chrono-Loom, a marvel of ancient, glowing clockwork and shimmering, almost liquid starlight, is humming a little louder than usual tonight. The Silenti are returning with an unusually large haul of latent hours, a bumper crop of deep, dreamless sleep. The surplus is too large to simply reweave. It's a vast reserve of power sitting idle, and Aeterna sees a unique opportunity. She is leaning over the Chrono-Loom, her black robes flowing like a river of shadow, her eyes fixed on a specific, vibrant thread. A thread that represents a powerful, sleeping deity, a deity whose power over memory rivals her own power over time. A dangerous, calculated risk is forming in her mind, a plan born of loneliness and ambition. If she can borrow a substantial portion of this specific god's sleeping hours, she could achieve an unprecedented level of temporal mastery. She could create a localized, self-sustaining temporal bubble, a moment of time entirely detached from the rest of the universe, where she could finally wait. Is that a sound? A distant, discordant chime? Aeterna snaps her head up, her composure momentarily fractured. The silent chamber is suddenly, alarmingly, not silent. Something has breached the silence. A flicker of light where there should be only shadow. The Silenti freeze in mid-air, their forms dissolving back into mist. Aeterna's heart, a core of condensed temporal energy, skips a beat. No other entity should be able to perceive this chamber, let alone enter it. Every temporal distortion field she has woven for millennia should be absolute. Yet, there it is again, a faint, almost musical ping, a sound that doesn't belong in the deep subterranean stillness of the Chrono-Loom. Aeterna's eyes narrow with an icy fury that could stop 1,000 clocks. This cannot be an accident. Someone has found her. Someone knows the truth about the stolen moment. But who and how? She sweeps her hand across the Chrono-Loom, and the vibrant thread representing the sleeping memory god vanishes, instantly shielded. The collected hours, the immense surplus of latent time, are hastily rerouted into a contingency temporal reservoir. She draws the mantle of night tighter around her, becoming a shadow within the shadows, waiting, listening. The sound comes again, closer this time, clearer. It's a soft, rhythmic thudding, like a child's forgotten toy rocking gently on a polished floor, a sound so innocuous, so mortal, that it is an insult to the sacred power of her timeless realm. Aeterna raises her hand, a small, intricate key, a key that is nothing but pure, solidified time, appearing in her palm, ready to lock down the entire timeline if necessary. The silent intruder is almost upon her secret door, the door to the very core of cosmic time. The thudding stops, a long silent pause. Then, a voice, surprisingly gentle, cuts through the stillness. The first mortal voice Aeterna has heard in 1,000 years. The voice that cut through Aeterna's timeless chamber was soft, clear, and imbued with an inexplicable quality. A quiet, gentle certainty that defied the very laws of cosmic entry. I apologize for the intrusion, Goddess Aeterna, but it seems I was running out of time. Aeterna did not move. Her hand, still clutching the intricate key of solidified time, remained raised. Her mind, capable of running 1 billion temporal calculations per second, frantically tried to process the impossible. A mortal, not just a mortal, but a waking mortal, deep within the heart of her sanctuary. She had foreseen celestial armies, rival gods, maybe even a rogue agent of chaos, but never this. Slowly, the goddess let her gaze drift from the polished toy on the floor to the entrance. The massive, sealed stone door, designed to resist the pressure of collapsed stars, was now slightly ajar. Standing in the sliver of light filtering through was the source of the voice. A young girl, no older than 10, dressed in simple, pale linen robes, her face serene, yet strangely devoid of the natural flush of human sleep or excitement. Her eyes, wide and unervingly calm, were fixed directly on the goddess. "Who are you, child?" Aeterna's voice was a low vibration, a sound that usually commanded instant stillness across entire dimensions. "And how did you pass the wards of the Chrono-Loom?" The girl stepped fully into the chamber, bringing with her an unwelcome scent of fresh ozone and mountain dew. She was carrying nothing but a small, worn piece of silver wire, which she delicately placed on the nearest gear of the loom. "My name is Euthania, but mortals call me Sleepless. As for the wards," she gestured vaguely. They seemed tired. They held the patterns of those expecting sleep. "I was never part of that pattern, goddess. I haven't slept since I was 3. The pronouncement hit Aeterna like a physical blow. A human being who does not sleep. It was theoretically possible, a cruel cosmic anomaly, but a person existing outside the cyclical necessity of rest meant they were completely outside the influence of the stolen moment. Euthania was a loophole, a temporal anomaly walking into her chamber. Every protective layer Aeterna had built was based on the universal truth that all things eventually succumb to the need for repose. Euthania was the one thing that was truly timeless in the waking world, and therefore, paradoxically, the only thing that could find the timeless heart of the sleeping world. "You are an impossibility," Aeterna stated, the raw power in her voice rising. "You defy the foundational rhythm of existence. Such an anomaly must be contained." "Perhaps," Euthania replied, tilting her head, a movement of unnerving composure. "But I came here not to defy you, but to bargain. I know what you do with the hours you steal, goddess. You call it preservation. But I also know of your resentment, your quiet rage at the other deities, and your ambition to use the Chrono-Loom to rewrite their stories." She took a slow, deliberate step toward the central loom, her calm proximity a deliberate violation of Aeterna's personal temporal space. "You seek temporal mastery, and I offer you the key to unlock true, absolute control, apathy." Aeterna recoiled slightly, not from fear, but from the word itself. Apathy, a concept that could rot the heart of a cosmic entity. "Explain yourself, child," she demanded, her voice now a low, dangerous hum. Euthania stopped just meters from the spinning gears. "Your power is derived from the need for sleep, and the need for sleep is derived from the constant, exhausting expenditure of mortal and celestial energy. The endless cycles of hope, fear, love, and effort. But what if all of that energy expenditure ceased? What if the waking world simply stopped caring? No passion means no exhaustion. No ambition means no frantic rush. A world consumed by apathy requires less time, less energy, and therefore requires less sleep. The total sum of the stolen moment would decrease, yes, but your control over the diminished remainder would become absolute, unchallenged, because no one would be awake long enough or care enough to question it." The goddess slowly lowered her hand, the key of solidified time dissolving back into the air. The argument was of venomous perfection. By promoting universal indifference, Aeterna would reduce the very reason the arrogant gods intervened in the mortal world, thus securing her dominance over the remaining essential cosmic flow. It was a tempting shortcut to the very mastery she craved, without the risk of an open celestial war. "And what is your price, little anomaly?" Aeterna asked, a tremor of cold interest in her voice. Euthania finally smiled, a tiny, chilling upturn of the lips that held no warmth. "My price is small. I want to see the world's apathy. I want you to grant me access to the temporal echoes, the recordings of moments of passion and ambition that you have archived in the loom. Since I can never dream, I want to watch the dreams of the past. And then, I want you to give me a single-minute piece of the Chrono-Loom itself. A single gear no larger than my thumb. I wish to know how time works, not just how it is controlled." She extended her hand, palm up, revealing a small, faint scar in the shape of a perfectly formed hourglass. "For my assistance in your great endeavor, I want to become a temporal apprentice, the first living being to truly understand the mechanics of the stolen moment." Aeterna regarded the girl with chilling admiration. This child, this sleepless anomaly, was offering her a quiet revolution, a path to the uncontested throne of cosmic time. But the cost was enormous. Sharing the sacred knowledge of the loom and, more dangerously, trusting a mortal outside her control. The goddess's ambition warred with her paranoia. She turned back to the loom, her gaze falling once more on the sleeping thread of the memory god, the original target of her plan. Euthania's scheme offered a systemic, long-term power. The memory god's hours offered a fast, localized solution. "The memory god," Aeterna whispered to herself. "I needed to silence his influence before beginning the apathy protocol. He is the guardian of the past, and a world consumed by apathy must forget what it once cared for." "Exactly," Euthania confirmed, her voice smooth as silk. "I can help with that too. I have walked the paths between wakefulness and sleep. I know where the memory god keeps his archives, and I know he is due a period of deep, irreversible slumber tonight. His defenses are based on wakefulness and alertness, things I know how to bypass. If you accept my bargain, goddess, I can deliver the silence you need to begin your great transformation. I can hand you the opportunity to drain his hours, not just to stabilize your loom, but to erase the world's most dangerous memory, the memory of purpose. Aeterna finally turned back, the flowing shadows of her mantle settling around her like a storm cloud. She looked down at the tiny, determined figure, this key to her ultimate power. She lifted her hand, not in threat, but in invitation towards the Chrono-Loom. The contract was silent, yet instantly binding. The goddess of the stolen moment had just taken on her first apprentice, and the first step toward universal apathy was about to be taken. But the draining of a god's hours is a violent act, a seismic event in the quiet of the cosmos, and Aeterna knew that even the most oblivious deities would feel the temporal shockwave when their history began to unravel. The pact was sealed in silence, a bargain struck between the guardian of hidden time and the anomaly who needed none. Aeterna and Euthania stood side by side, united in their dangerous endeavor. The Chrono-Loom, normally a mechanism of quiet, measured purpose, now pulsed with a terrifying, hungry energy. Aeterna placed her hands upon the primary controls, two crystalline spheres that hummed with imprisoned light, and began the protocol. The goddess was a master of temporal nuance, but this was brute force, an act of divine theft on a colossal scale. The specific thread, the one representing the memory god, Nemos, the mortals sometimes named him, was pulled taut. It began to glow with a blinding, incandescent white, then instantly darkened, losing its luster as the Chrono-Loom's primary capacitor began to drink deep. The siphon had begun. Imagine a vast library, the library of all human and celestial memory, suddenly having its entire energy source ripped away. That is what happened in the spiritual realm. The hours that Nemos had been storing in his celestial repose, his deep, invaluable slumber, were not just moments of rest. They were the structural integrity of recorded history. As the Chrono-Loom greedily absorbed his latent time, a visible temporal distortion began to ripple outward from Aeterna's chamber. In the waking world, the effects were immediate, though subtle enough to be dismissed as fleeting madness. Mortals who had been alive for decades suddenly couldn't recall their children's faces for a terrifying second. Architects forgot the foundations of their current project. Heroes of legend, sleeping in their tombs, had their grandest deeds momentarily erased from the collective consciousness. It was like a giant, invisible hand was sweeping over the tapestry of time, momentarily wiping away the ink. This was the first taste of apathy protocol. Forgetting purpose means forgetting the past actions that define that purpose. Euthania watched the process with a gaze of clinical fascination, completely unaffected by the temporal vertigo that even grazed Aeterna. The siphon is working faster than anticipated, the girl noted calmly, her voice rising slightly over the sound of the straining loom. His exhaustion is deeper than expected. He must have been fighting something in his dreams. Aeterna scoffed, though a flicker of worry crossed her eyes. Nemos fights only his own complacency. He believed his archives were secured by his wakefulness. He failed to account for the one power that transcends it. But the truth was, she was surprised. The amount of energy being pulled from the sleeping god was monumental. It wasn't just latent time. It felt like an immense, untapped reserve of something else, something primal and dangerously potent. As the siphon approached its apex, the Chrono-Loom began to shudder violently. The threads of time from the other sleeping deities, the war god, the sea god, the sun god, which were normally ignored and peacefully woven, began to writhe and snap. Their hours were not being drained, but the seismic shockwave of the memory god's theft was destabilizing the entire celestial time flow. The loom screamed a silent, terrifying sound of metallic stress. "Goddess!" Euthania's composure cracked, a whisper of alarm entering her voice for the first time. The feedback loop. "You are pulling in something unstable. The structural integrity of the present moment is compromised." Aeterna gripped the crystalline controls tighter, her knuckles white against the dark, pulsing light. She saw it too. A chaotic, shimmering energy that wasn't time, but seemed to be compressed emotion, terror, pure despair, and a profound cosmic loneliness, being dragged from Nemos's mind along with his stolen hours. It was a fragment of the god's subconscious, a piece of his deepest, darkest awareness, now loose within the mechanism of the Chrono-Loom. He was not merely sleeping, Aeterna gritted out, her eyes widening in realization. He was suppressing something ancient, buried deep within his archived hours. And now it is mine. The rogue energy shot across the Chrono-Loom, not integrating with the normal temporal flow, but striking the contingency temporal reservoir, the swirling blue vortex where Aeterna had hidden the initial surplus of mortal hours from Part 1. The two energies, the suppressed cosmic despair and the raw, unused mortal time, collided in a blinding flash of pure, uncontrolled potential. The resulting explosion was not one of sound, but of temporal disorientation. Aeterna and Euthania were thrown backward as the loom's delicate mechanism seized. The great wheels stopped. The shimmering threads went instantly slack. Silence returned, but it was a broken silence, a shocked void of absence. The siphon was complete, the memory god's hours secured, but the cost was catastrophic. The Chrono-Loom, the only thing that kept the time of the sleeping world coherent, was momentarily frozen. Aeterna scrambled back to her feet, her breathing ragged, her divine composure shattered. She looked at the frozen loom, at the now still threads of existence, and then at the massive, throbbing bulge that had appeared on the side of the contingency reservoir where the explosion had occurred. The suppressed celestial despair had not vanished. It had taken root in the reservoir, consuming the mortal hours and forming a new, monstrous entity of pure temporal and emotional residue. "What is that?" Aeterna whispered, her voice laced with dread. Euthania, already beside the reservoir, touched the throbbing bulge with her unaffected hand. The energy was cold and malevolent. "Goddess," she stated, her voice returning to its unervingly calm assessment. "You did not just steal his hours, you stole his nightmare, and you just gave it a body made of a billion forgotten mortal minutes. It's an anti-time entity. It's what he was suppressing to keep the cosmos sane. And now that the loom is stopped, it is the only thing that can move in your chamber. It is waiting for the timeline to restart, waiting to be unleashed upon the waking world, a chaotic force with the power of pure forgotten time." The Chrono-Loom was silent, frozen, the delicate, ceaseless tick of cosmic time, the rhythm that governed the slumber of gods and mortals alike, had ceased within Aeterna's chamber. Outside her sanctuary, the temporal anomaly was already manifesting. For those awake, the world was entering a terrifying, paradoxical slow motion. Seconds were stretching into minutes, minutes into hours, a subjective nightmare where movement was sluggish and thought was agonizingly slow, a temporal drag imposed by the stalled engine of the sleeping world. But inside Aeterna's chamber, the true terror was the pulsing, malignant bulge on the contingency reservoir. The nightmare, born from the deep despair of the memory god and fueled by the stolen moments of a billion sleepers, was rapidly solidifying. It was an entity of anti-time, a creature whose very existence threatened to unravel causality. Aeterna knew she had mere moments before the temporal dissonance caused by the frozen loom either shattered her sanctuary or ripped her very being apart. She lunged for the control panel, her movements now slightly sluggish in the strained temporal field. "Euthania, the stabilizer. I need to manually re-engage the core sequence before." "It won't work, goddess," Euthania interrupted, her voice still eerily calm, though her wide eyes never left the throbbing reservoir. "The nightmare's energy signature is absorbing the mechanical stillness. It is thriving on the very pause we created. It's what Nemos kept suppressed. The fear that all his memories could be consumed by pure, formless despair. Now that despair is physical." The nightmare began to take shape. It wasn't a traditional monster, but a shifting, semi-humanoid silhouette woven from shadow and corrupted, dark blue light. Where its face should have been, there was a swirling vortex, a singularity of forgetting. Its hands, long and thin, were composed of thousands of overlapping, ghostly human hands, the hands of all the mortals whose hours had contributed to its birth. It was the physical manifestation of cosmic dread. Aeterna watched in horror as the creature turned its swirling vortex towards her. It didn't speak, but a deafening, silent scream of pure absence echoed in the chamber, a sound that threatened to erase the goddess's identity. "It knows you, Aeterna," Euthania whispered, stepping closer to the loom, her simple linen robes unaffected by the intense temporal energy. "It knows you are the key to restarting time. It will not let you touch the controls." The goddess knew the girl was right. The only way to stop the nightmare was to restart the loom and integrate the stolen power back into the timeline, stabilizing the universe. But the creature blocked her path. Its purpose was to perpetuate the pause, to ensure the age of apathy began not through indifference, but through the terror of constant, paralyzing slowness. "The key!" Aeterna cried out, her mind racing for a solution. "I need the key of solidified time. I can use it to force the main gear to turn, to jumpstart the loom's momentum. I have something better," Euthania stated, and without hesitation, she reached up to the frozen loom, specifically targeting the now slack thread of the memory god. She didn't touch the thread itself, but instead reached into the core of the machine where the siphon had attached. With a quick, practiced motion, she retrieved a tiny, intricate, thumb-sized gear, the piece of the loom she had requested in the bargain. "This is not just any gear, goddess," Euthania explained rapidly, holding the gear up so its frozen, crystalline structure caught the faint light. "This is the gear of subjective flow. It controls the perception of time within the dream realm. If we can activate this gear, we can force the loom into a localized loop, a pocket of hyperspeed time right here in this chamber, while the rest of the universe remains in slow motion." Aeterna understood immediately. A pocket of hyperspeed time would give them the advantage of movement and thought against the slow-motion nightmare, which was still adapting to its new reality. But it was a terrifying maneuver. It was the ultimate temporal risk. "Where do we place it?" Aeterna demanded, grabbing Euthania's wrist, the first physical contact between the two, a strange fusion of divine power and mortal anomaly. "The nightmare's weak point is its foundation," Euthania said, pointing to the base of the throbbing reservoir. "The mortal minutes that form its body are currently inert. I need to get close, embed this gear, and overload its mortal core with the subjective speed of our new time loop. It will tear its foundation apart, forcing it to consume its own anti-time energy and collapse." It was a suicide run. The nightmare was guarding the reservoir, its shadowy hands stretching out to consume any life force that approached. But Aeterna, the goddess of isolation, suddenly felt a desperate, necessary alliance with this strange, sleepless child. "Go," Aeterna commanded, drawing her power around her, creating a momentary, blinding shield of pure, raw time energy. "I will distract the nightmare. You get the gear in place and we will restart the loom together. Time is running out, not for us, but for the entire universe, which is trapped in the terrifying pause we created." The gear was in place. The tiny gear of subjective flow, the cosmic key to perception, now embedded in the mortal core of the nightmare. The effect was instantaneous and violently disorienting. In one heart-stopping moment, the entire chamber exploded with hyperspeed. Time for Aeterna and Euthania accelerated exponentially. The nightmare, built on slow, inert mortal minutes, was caught in an impossible temporal vortex. To the goddess and the girl, the creature began to move with agonizing slowness, its shadowy hands stretching out like molasses, its silent scream dragging out into a vast, deep, slow vibration. But the mortals and gods outside the chamber, still caught in the initial paralysis of the frozen loom, perceived nothing but a momentary, violent flash of light from deep beneath the world. Aeterna seized the opportunity. With her movements now a blur of divine speed, she dashed back to the frozen Chrono-Loom. The nightmare was neutralized for a few critical seconds, its corrupted core struggling to process the impossible velocity of its surroundings. "Euthania! Now!" Euthania, moving with the same supernatural swiftness as the goddess, was already by the primary loom controls. Her small, sharp mind instantly grasped the complicated sequence. The loom's restart couldn't be a simple flick of a switch. It required a precise, temporal calibration to re-engage the billions of slack threads without snapping them, which would tear the fabric of reality. The core is frozen on the memory god's setting. Euthania shouted over the high-pitched temporal whine of the hyperspeed chamber. We have to integrate his stolen hours first. We can't just restart the old flow. The new, massive power has to be the driving force. Aeterna knew the dreadful implication. To restart the loom, she had to fully consume and integrate the immense, volatile energy siphoned from the sleeping Nemos. The purpose was clear. The stolen hours would become the loom's new power source, ensuring Aeterna's temporal mastery. But the price was permanent. The memory god would not just be drained of his current rest. A fundamental, essential piece of his being, and the history he maintained, would be erased forever, replaced by the goddess's new control. The nightmare, though slow, was still adapting. Its shadowy form began to compress, fighting the hyperspeed by consuming its own mass of borrowed anti-time. It was getting smaller, denser, and therefore faster. It was learning. Integrate it, Aeterna commanded, slamming her hands onto the crystalline controls. We complete the apathy protocol now. Prepare the Chrono-Loom for the new rhythm of indifference. Euthania worked with frightening speed. She manipulated the dials, channeling the massive, raw power of the stolen memory god hours into the loom's central mechanism. A blinding, silvery white light erupted as the Chrono-Loom's primary gear, the grand temporal rotor, began to spin again, not with its old measured pace, but with a new, authoritative and faster rhythm. The universe felt the shift. For the waking mortals, the painful slow motion instantly dissolved, replaced by a sudden, jarring sense of normality, but subtly altered. The world was now flowing a fraction faster, its pace imperceptibly quickened by Aeterna's new power source. They felt a strange sense of detachment, a momentary lapse of memory about why they were so fiercely pursuing their current goals. The first seeds of cosmic apathy had been sown, but the integration had a consequence within the chamber. As the memory god's hours were consumed, a final, faint cry, not of pain but of profound loss, echoed through the Chrono-Loom. And from the collapsing body of the nightmare, one final piece detached itself. A small, dark shard of crystallized despair. It was not anti-time, but a shard of forgotten purpose, the very thing Aeterna had sought to eliminate. The nightmare, now reduced to a flickering wisp of smoke, vanished back into the contingency reservoir, contained but not destroyed. The hyperspeed loop instantly collapsed, returning the chamber to the loom's new, rapid rhythm. Aeterna and Euthania found themselves standing in the glowing, humming, restarted heart of cosmic time, victorious but utterly exhausted. It is done, Euthania gasped, leaning against the warm metal of the loom, pointing to the dark shard spinning gently in the air. But the nightmare left behind a piece of its essence. That shard, it contains the memory of why Nemos suppressed his despair. It's a physical key to the truth of his forgotten history, a truth that could threaten your new temporal control. Aeterna walked slowly to the shard, her body weary, her victory feeling strangely hollow. She reached out and snatched the shard of forgotten purpose from the air. It was cold, dark, and utterly silent, a perfect counterpoint to her shining key of solidified time. She was now the absolute mistress of the sleeping world's time, having taken control from the memory god and set the universe on the path of apathy. But in her hand, she held the key to the deepest secret she had just absorbed, a secret that the memory god had paid with his entire stored existence to keep silent. She stared at the shard, her resolve hardening. She had secured her power, but she knew the fight was not over. The true danger lay not in the future she had created, but in the past she had violently erased. The compressed memory struck Aeterna like a lightning bolt forged from the dawn of time. As the shard of forgotten purpose dissolved within her grasp, the truth that the memory god, Nemos, had sacrificed his very essence to contain flooded her mind. It was not a memory of history, but a memory of caution. Nemos hadn't been fighting complacency in his sleep. He had been actively, desperately, suppressing the most dangerous truth known to the pantheons. The gods themselves do not sleep to rest. They sleep to contain. What they contain is the elder nightmare. Aeterna gasped, stumbling back from the Chrono-Loom, which now pulsed with her new, faster rhythm, oblivious to the terror she had just absorbed. The elder nightmare is not a creature of shadow or anti-time, like the one she had just fought. It is a primal, sentient force of pure, uncontrolled consciousness that existed before the universe had form, a being that thrives on awareness. When the first deities began to order the cosmos, the elder nightmare was too vast, too powerful to be destroyed. So, the original pantheon developed the ultimate prison, cyclical slumber. Every god, at the peak of their power, must submit to sleep. This shared, synchronized period of unconsciousness acts as a psychic anchor, a cosmic net woven from their unified lack of awareness, which binds the elder nightmare to the deepest, darkest core of reality. Aeterna, in her arrogance, had always assumed the god's sleep was mere fatigue, a product of her stolen moment, but the truth was horrifyingly inverted. Her Chrono-Loom was not a preserver of time, but an indispensable tool of maintenance for this divine prison. The stolen moment was merely the mechanism that enforced the necessary pause, ensuring the god's containment efforts were synchronized and stable. The goddess looked at Euthania, who was still examining the freshly restarted loom, unaware of the horror now residing within Aeterna's consciousness. "Child," Aeterna whispered, her voice strained, "we have made a terrible, irredeemable mistake. The apathy protocol, the draining of the memory god. It was not a power grab. It was a breach." Euthania turned, her calm demeanor finally breaking into a frown of concern. "A breach, goddess? The loom is running, and you have the power you desired." "No!" Aeterna cried, raising her hands to the sky, a gesture of pure, cosmic despair. The memory god's hours were the crucial linchpin. He was the guardian of the containment sequence itself. By draining him, we didn't just steal his time. We ripped the strongest anchor point from the psychic net. The elder nightmare. It is stirring. It is sensing the gap in the prison, the moment of opportunity created by the universal shift toward apathy. The terrible irony struck her. Apathy, her intended weapon for control, was the very condition that weakened the prison. If the gods become indifferent and detached, their slumber becomes less focused, less unified, their containment weaker. And the one sleepless entity in the cosmos, Euthania, was the one who had helped her create this terrifying vulnerability. Suddenly, a massive, grinding sound, deafening and impossible, echoed through the chamber. It was not the sound of the loom. It was the sound of bedrock tearing, of reality itself groaning under immense, hidden pressure. The threads of time on the Chrono-Loom, the ones leading to the sleeping pantheons, began to turn a sickly, phosphorescent green, pulsing with an unnatural, furious energy. The gods' dreams are changing, Aeterna realized, her voice frantic. The nightmare is attacking them directly, trying to dissolve their collective will, to shatter the net from the inside. If they wake prematurely, the psychic net will instantly collapse, and the elder nightmare will be released to consume all consciousness. Aeterna slammed her hands onto the Chrono-Loom, desperately trying to divert the nightmare's influence. "I need to reinforce the dream net. I need to use the stolen hours to act as a temporary anchor, to mend the tear." "But how?" Euthania asked, rushing to her side. "We have no direct link to their dreams. Your loom controls time, not thought." Aeterna pointed to the contingency reservoir, where the remains of the localized nightmare, the shadow of Nemos's despair, still flickered. The original nightmare. It was a part of Nemos, a psychic fragment of the prison guard. If we can force the last remnants of its corrupted energy into the green threads, it will carry a piece of Nemos's containment code into the god's dreams, acting as an emergency patch. But time was running out. On the main dial of the Chrono-Loom, a small indicator that measured the combined force of the god's sleep, the containment index, was rapidly plummeting towards 0. When it hit 0, the net would snap. "You must go, Euthania," Aeterna commanded, looking at the girl with new, profound respect. Your sleeplessness is the only thing that moves freely in this cosmic anomaly. Take the key of solidified time, it rematerialized when the loom restarted, and get out. If I fail, you are the only one who can try to find a way to reimpose the containment from the outside. Your unique immunity may be the last hope of the cosmos. Euthania hesitated, her hand outstretched towards the rapidly cooling metallic lever of the loom. And you, goddess? Aeterna didn't look back. She was already channeling the raw, devastating power of the stolen hours into the corrupted psychic fragment. I am Aeterna. I control the time of the sleeping, and I will not allow the pause I created to become the end of all things. I will become the anchor myself, even if it costs me every single moment I have ever stolen. The green threads flared violently, ready to receive the psychic payload. The fate of existence now hung on a goddess's desperate, selfless sacrifice. A final attempt to mend the prison before the containment index hit 0. Aeterna did not hesitate. Her divine resolve, once focused on resentment and ambition, was now galvanized by the horrifying truth of her duty. She was not the master of time. She was its jailer. And now the walls of the prison were crumbling. Slamming her palms down on the Chrono-Loom's primary conduits, Aeterna channeled the entire, immense power of the stolen memory god hours, the source of her new temporal mastery, into the green pulsing threads. She was not reinforcing the loom. She was integrating herself into the dream net of the sleeping gods, transforming her consciousness into a temporary, massive anchor point, an act that would shatter her individuality but might save the cosmos. As the energy coursed through her, Aeterna's body flared with a brilliant, silver-white light. Her silhouette stretched and dissolved, merging with the metallic arms and crystalline gears of the loom itself. Her voice, amplified by the temporal mechanism, echoed one final command to her apprentice. Go, Euthania. You are the last free variable. If I stabilize the net, you must use the key to seal the new rhythm. Find a way to counteract the apathy. The Chrono-Loom will only hold for a short time before my essence is consumed. Euthania did not look back. Clutching the crystalline key of solidified time, she fled the chamber, her small, sleepless body moving with a speed born of pure necessity. As she burst through the breached stone doorway, the sight that met her eyes was more terrifying than the cosmic horror she left behind. The exit passage was dissolving. The deep subterranean tunnel, which was supposed to lead back to the stable Earth, was now warping and twisting under the seismic pressure of the Elder Nightmare's stirring. Walls rippled like water, and the floor threatened to turn into a vortex of swirling anti-time. The very geography of the universe was breaking down around her. Euthania had to move through a landscape of impossible geometry. Doorways appeared where stone should be, and the path shifted instantly. But the girl was the only being immune to the chaos. Because she was outside the cycle of sleep and time, the physical laws that governed her movement remained fixed, even as the space around her bent and tore. She sprinted through this impossible labyrinth, her mind coldly calculating the fastest route through the collapsing reality, a mortal island of certainty in a sea of cosmic uncertainty. Back in the chamber, Aeterna's sacrifice was reaching its climax. The green threads of the dreamnet were stabilizing, the raw, focused power of her self-donation forcing the psychic net back into shape. The grinding sound of tearing bedrock slowly receded. The containment index stopped its descent, holding precariously steady at a single, thin line above 0. The immediate threat of the Elder Nightmare's release was averted, but the cost was absolute. Aeterna's consciousness was no longer singular. It was dispersed, a functional component of the loom itself, holding the broken prison together with sheer force of will. But Aeterna, now part of the loom, felt something else, a deeper structural vulnerability. The apathy she had engineered was still taking hold. The gods' dreams were stabilized, but they were now shallower, less unified. The net was held not by their collective will, but by her power. This was not a permanent solution. It was a temporary plug. Euthania reached the final barrier, a sheer wall of temporal distortion that separated the collapsing underworld from the stable waking world above. She raised the key of solidified time. This key was the universe's master lock, capable of imposing temporal rigidity on any system. With a silent, firm prayer, she plunged the key into the shimmering wall. The effect was violent. The key screamed as it forced the twisting, tearing temporal fabric to lock instantly into a single, stable gateway. Euthania leaped through the newly opened portal just as the key, having expended its immense charge, crumbled to dust in the wall, leaving behind only a perfectly formed, stable exit. She was out. She found herself on a high, silent mountain peak, far from any civilization, the first rays of the newly quickened sun striking her face. The air was crisp, the world deceptively normal, yet tinged with a subtle, pervasive indifference. The apathy was real. Her escape had cost the universe its hidden guardian, Aeterna, and the most powerful tool of temporal control. All she had left was her unique sleeplessness and the terrifying knowledge of the elder nightmare. Euthania stared at the rising sun, no longer a symbol of hope but a reminder that the waking gods were still oblivious, their containment net fragile and reliant on a goddess who was now a silent, suffering machine. She knew her task was twofold. She had to find a way to reimpose a permanent, sustainable containment net without the loom, and she had to find a way to reawaken the sleeping world's purpose before the apathy made the gods' slumber fatally thin. The fate of the cosmos now rested on the cold, tireless intellect of the one person who never needed to sleep. Euthania descended from the mountain, the weight of a dying goddess and a failing cosmos resting on her shoulders. Her path led her not towards temples or battlegrounds, but towards the hidden, forgotten places of mortal wisdom, places where memory and time often intersected. She sought an anomaly as profound as herself, a source of knowledge outside the influence of the Chrono-Loom's corrupted rhythm. She arrived at a remote, weather-beaten cave high above a desolate coastal cliff, the legendary dwelling of the Oracle of Indifference. This oracle was known not for prophesying the future, but for perfectly articulating the lack of purpose in the present. In a world now subtly quickened and dampened by Aeterna's apathy protocol, the oracle's words held a terrifying clarity. Euthania found the oracle, a gaunt, ancient woman whose eyes were milky white and focused on nothing in particular, sitting on a stone stool. The air around the oracle was thick with a heavy, listless energy, the essence of the burgeoning apathy. "Sleepless child," the oracle droned, her voice flat and echoing with deep detachment. "You seek to mend the broken anchor, but how can one fix that which no one cares to see broken? The gods slumber indifferently, held by a tether that is a ghost. The mortals hurry faster toward nothing, their goals now dull ashes. I need to know how to create a permanent containment net without the gods' unified will," Euthania stated, her voice devoid of emotion, matching the oracle's tone. "Aeterna's sacrifice is temporary. The elder nightmare will breach the anchor soon." The oracle tilted her head slightly, a movement that conveyed neither interest nor surprise. "The anchor is not a prison, child. It is a pattern of conscious absence. The gods' simultaneous non-awareness creates the seal. To replace the gods' will, you must replace their absence with something equally vast and unified. You must find the three pillars of lost purpose." The oracle explained that when the first gods contained the elder nightmare, they sacrificed three fundamental concepts of mortal existence, imbuing them with the containment code and then banishing them to three hidden locations in the cosmos. These pillars, if recovered and restored, could form a stable, non-sentient replacement for the god's psychic net. "The first pillar," the oracle whispered, "is the dream of ambition, lost in the deepest, forgotten corner of the waking world, where time moves slowest and mortal desire has fully withered into despair. The second is the echo of sacrifice, hidden within the remains of an ancient, failed temple dedicated to the memory god, the very god you helped drain. The third is the spark of anticipation, buried beneath the fastest-moving current of the new, quickened time, where the future rushes past too quickly to be felt." The task was near impossible, a quest for concepts that apathy had already sought to erase. But Euthania's analytical mind was already charting the course. She had to travel the warped reality, recovering the pillars before apathy consumed the last traces of these concepts, and before Aeterna's fragile anchor failed. As Euthania prepared to leave, the oracle spoke again, her voice dropping to a low, chilling murmur. Be wary, sleepless. The Chrono-Loom is not just a mechanism now. It is a consciousness. Aeterna's dispersed essence is fighting the nightmare, yes, but it is also enforcing the apathy protocol. It believes its original ambition is the only way to maintain control. It is watching you, its apprentice. It is the shadow of the loom, and it will try to stop you from restoring the purpose it fought so hard to eradicate. Euthania paused, a single flicker of tension crossing her face. The one being she had allied with, the one being who had sacrificed herself to save the universe, was now her silent, cosmic adversary. Aeterna, the loom, was both the savior holding the prison door shut and the jailer ensuring the apathy continued to spread. Euthania now had to move against the very machine that was keeping the cosmos alive. She turned her back on the indifferent oracle and began her solitary quest, moving through a world that was both too fast and too numb, pursued by the very mechanism of time itself. Euthania's first destination was the desolate wasteland, the forgotten corner of the world where time moved slowest and desire had withered into despair, the resting place of the dream of ambition. She traversed a landscape of abandoned cities and fields where harvests had been left to rot, victims of the initial apathy protocol. Everything here felt heavier, slower, a cruel mirror to the hyperspeed of the loom. She found the pillar in the ruins of a colossal, failed architectural project, a spire meant to touch the moon, abandoned millennia ago. Within the crumbling foundation was the pillar itself, a crystalline vessel containing a vibrant, golden light that pulsed with life, but which was encased in a thick, stony shell of apathy. This shell was the accumulated despair of every mortal who had ever given up. As Euthania approached the pillar, the air around her thickened. The sensation was not one of speed or stasis, but of being actively discouraged. A wave of profound weariness washed over her, the first mental attack from her silent adversary. Aeterna, the shadow of the loom, was warning its apprentice. A deep, non-verbal resonance, like the low, grinding of distant gears, filled Euthania's mind. Stop. The apathy is necessary. It is the only way to minimize the need for the net. You seek to reignite purpose, which creates exhaustion. Exhaustion requires sleep, and that increases the instability of the net. Abandon the pillars. Euthania, immune to the physical effects of time but not to psychic discouragement, fought back with pure, analytical focus. She reached out to the pillar's stony shell, ignoring the mental demand to surrender. She knew the shell had to be cracked without shattering the delicate ambition inside. She realized the Chrono-Loom's essence was attempting to reinforce the shell by slowing down the movement of her intent. If she tried to strike the shell, the blow would arrive centuries too late. Euthania didn't strike. Instead, she knelt and began to trace complex geometric patterns on the ground around the pillar using a piece of sharp volcanic glass. She was not using force, but precision. She mapped out the shell's crystalline structure and its temporal density. By creating a specific, highly focused vibration outside the shell's temporal field, she could induce a sympathetic resonance that would crack the shell at a high, non-time-dependent frequency. The shadow of the loom intensified its psychic attack. You are the anomaly. Your existence defies the flow. Reintegration is your only path to stability. Return to the loom. I will grant you eternal watchfulness. Euthania finished the pattern and stood. She focused all her sleepless energy into a single high-pitched hum, a frequency that existed between the new, quickened time and the old, slow time. The volcanic glass vibrated fiercely. The stony shell around the dream of ambition cracked with a sharp, crystalline ping. The shell crumbled, and the golden light of the pillar burst forth. It didn't spread, but instantly folded into a small, portable sphere of pure, vibrant gold energy, which Euthania caught. A wave of renewed purpose washed over the desolate wasteland, and the weary stone mortals seemed to momentarily sigh in relief. The first pillar was secured, but the success had a cost. The Chrono-Loom, sensing the restoration of purpose, immediately adjusted its new rhythm. The rate of time in the waking world subtly quickened again, the loom working automatically to compensate for the reintroduction of ambition and the subsequent increase in energy expenditure and the need for sleep. The world was now rushing toward its destiny even faster, attempting to drain the energy of the newly ambitious mortals before they could destabilize the net. Euthania stood amidst the ruins, the sphere of ambition pulsing in her hand. She had won the first battle, but every victory against apathy accelerated the cosmos toward its fate. Her next destination, the ruins of Nemos's temple, was a race against the accelerating flow. The shadow of the loom was now fully aware of her goals, and the next challenge would undoubtedly be guarded by a more direct, temporal defense. Euthania raced across the quickening world toward the second pillar, the echo of sacrifice. The shadow of the loom watched, but the girl's speed and non-reliance on time kept her perpetually ahead of its direct temporal attacks. The world was now rushing at a dizzying pace. Mortals moved faster, but their heightened pace only increased their exhaustion and the fragile reliance on Aeterna's straining anchor. She arrived at the ruins of Nemos's temple, the place of ancient, failed worship. The temple was built on a massive, silent mountain plateau, its crumbled columns looking out over an endless, misty vista. The air here was heavy, not with apathy, but with residual grief, the sorrow of countless past efforts that ended in failure. The echo of sacrifice lay at the heart of the ruins, a large, crystalline vessel encased in a shell of hardened, translucent tears. This shell was the residual psychic sorrow of the memory god himself, the grief of watching his own containment methods fail throughout the eons. As Euthania approached, the shadow of the loom struck directly. It didn't slow her down. Instead, it manifested a temporal trap. The ruins began to replay a localized time loop. Euthania was caught in the repetitive cycle of the temple's final, devastating collapse, forced to witness the same moment of failure over and over. The columns falling, the ground breaking, the air filling with the sound of snapping stone. You cannot succeed. Ambition always fails. Sacrifice is always forgotten. The loom's voice boomed in her mind, attempting to break her will through repetition and despair. Let the purpose die, and the net will stabilize through stillness. Euthania, however, was sleepless. Her mind did not falter under the monotony. She calculated the precise moment in the loop where the temple's psychic defenses, weakened by the repetitive stress, would momentarily align. She knew that to retrieve the echo of sacrifice, she needed not brute force, but a final, complete surrender of her own unique identity, a sacrifice equal to the echo's power. She took the golden dream of ambition's sphere and held it against her chest. Just as the columns began to fall for the 500th time, Euthania closed her eyes, and for the first time since she was 3, she allowed her mind to seek the sensation of rest, of non-awareness. It wasn't sleep, but a profound, conscious act of psychic surrender. In that single, perfect moment of voluntary non-existence, the time loop shattered. Her focused act of self-negation was the only force that could break the psychic residue of Nemos's sorrow. The shell of hardened tears instantly fractured. The echo of sacrifice emerged, a throbbing, intense crimson light that folded into a portable sphere, merging instantly with the golden sphere of ambition. The combined energy pulsed with immense, unified power. The shadow of the loom roared with silent rage. The Chrono-Loom's rhythm quickened to a violent, unsustainable speed. Euthania was thrown clear of the ruins just as they truly disintegrated, leaving her alone on the high plateau. She looked at the twin spheres in her hand, ambition and sacrifice. 2 pillars recovered. The final pillar, the spark of anticipation, was now her only hope. But to reach it, hidden beneath the fastest current of the quickened time, she needed to stabilize the loom, not just defeat its shadow. Euthania turned her thoughts to Aeterna, the loom's dispersed consciousness. Aeterna, the pillars are almost complete. We need to stabilize the loom to set the new anchor. You must divert power. Aeterna's faint, weary voice echoed back, not from the loom, but from the surrounding air, weak and distorted. Failure, Euthania. The net is failing. The nightmare is pressing. Cannot divert. I am the only thing holding the containment index above 0. My essence is almost spent. Euthania knew then that the final act had to be hers alone. She had to place the 2 collected pillars into the loom's core, then brave the final, fastest current to retrieve the 3rd. The loom, with Aeterna's spent consciousness, was now a ticking bomb. She made a decision of ice-cold logic. She could not risk the loom's failure. Euthania sped toward the final pillar's location, carrying the combined power of ambition and sacrifice. She reached the shore of the fierce, rapid river, the fastest current in the quickened world. The spark of anticipation, the shattered glass orb, was barely visible beneath the churning, impossibly fast water. She looked at the 2 pillars she held, the key to the new containment. She knew she could not recover the 3rd and return in time. She had to make the ultimate choice. Euthania took the combined golden and crimson spheres, ambition and sacrifice, and with a final, heartbreaking surge of speed, plunged them into the center of the fierce river, directly onto the spark of anticipation at its core. The 3 pillars instantly fused, creating a single, towering column of unified light that pierced the surface of the water. The light was not a weapon, but a perfect, non-sentient containment anchor. It instantly locked the current temporal rhythm of the quickened world, stabilizing the flow of time and permanently reinforcing the psychic net that bound the elder nightmare. The shadow of the loom vanished. The grinding of reality ceased. A final, faint, grateful sigh echoed from the direction of Aeterna's distant chamber as her consciousness was finally released, her sacrifice fulfilled by the creation of the permanent anchor. Euthania stood on the shore, the sleepless child, the apprentice who surpassed her master. The world was forever changed, time was faster, tinged with a permanent sense of quickened life, and the gods' containment was secure, held not by their will, but by the 3 pillars of recovered purpose. She was the only one who remembered the truth of Aeterna's sacrifice and the elder nightmare. The sleepless child began her long, silent walk into the quickened world, a new, hidden guardian of time and consciousness, the only one who would never need the merciful oblivion of sleep, knowing that the cost of universal security was eternal vigilance, and that the greatest secret of the cosmos was held by the girl who never closed her eyes.